The essence of basketball. I don't know if you can be a basketball player without experience.
All radio.
My name is Bobbito E-New. Cool Bob Love, and joined by
E-New, Eric Newman, back on the mic.
Ooh, you sound like a Quiet Storm Eric Newman, sexy. I want to get you excited.
From it, sleep deprived, easing into the new place out here. So forgive the lack of background, but doing well. Moved over the holiday, and glad we're back on the mic together, my man.
No doubt, no doubt. It's a pleasure as always. Before we get into our in-house NBA analysts' predictions as well as recaps for the in-season tournament, let's dive into some archival stuff and get back to the modern day at the end of the show. So please stay tuned for that. But Eric, we had a conversation during episode 14 that sort of started to scratch the surface of the cultural impact globally of the 96 Chicago Bulls. And you wanted to get into as well, talking about two squads of note, the Lakers and Celtics of the 80s. Please share with me, if you can, what your vision is in hindsight of the two squads, and be specific about the year and why they were so impactful for you personally. Let's not talk about globally. I'm talking about you personally.
Yeah, well, this comes from our exercise of all-time single season champs since the Bird Magic era began in 79-80 in the spirit of the in-season tournament bracket. And Bob, as I'm getting my new man cave studio organized, I just so happen to have a visual aid right next to me.
What? Oh! Is that what does that do? Leonard Newman?
Leonard. It is not a Leonard Nimoy.
Nimoy, yeah.
There was this incredible company years ago that unfortunately went out of business that was taking all of these photographs and turning them into those types of paintings. So that's the first one I ever got, and I wanted more, and then all of a sudden they were going out of business, unfortunately. But
oh man,
as we put together the tiers for those all-time teams, it's more than just what took place in competition and, between the lines. And, growing up, learning the game and learning what greatness meant through watching the Celtics Lakers battles of the mid 80s was a truly unique and special experience. So two of the greatest teams of all time, obviously the two teams that owned the 1980s. They won 8 of the titles in the 80s, with the Detroit Pistons winning the other one in 1989. So the cultural relevance, obviously, it starts with Larry Bird. It starts
shout
with
out to the Sixers in '83.
I'm sorry, and the Sixers in '83.
I was in Philly.
That was actually that was a slightly subconscious, intentional dig at Sixers fans. I apologize, Pat Cassidy, if you're listening. But no, of course, the '83 Sixers were a dominant team and part of the exercise we also went through. But the pick and roll, the fast break, the Converse weapons, the polarizing effect of both teams. You didn't have a neutral anything when it came to those teams. You either loved those teams or hated those teams. And the '86 Celtics are a team that, were the champs in '84, 7-game classic series, one of the greatest 7-game series in the history of any sport against the Lakers, where they came out on top. In '85, they have their rematch. The Celtics are slightly banged up. The Lakers are hungry for revenge. At that point, the Lakers had never beaten the Celtics in a championship series, and do so in 6 games behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's brilliant Game 6 in the Boston Garden. And in 1986, it seems like it's going to be a collision course
Hmm.
for their third in a row, as the Celtics traded Cedric Maxwell to bring in Bill Walton, who, swears to Red Auerbach he's healthy. Red Auerbach basically lied and said he passed the physical. He didn't. Bill
Rest
Walton plays
rest
80
in peace to Walton, yo. Big
Rest in peace
loss
to
in the
Walton.
last few years.
Huge. And I'll share my Bill Walton story and experience on another show, which you'll love.
Hmm.
Um, but Walton comes in and he picks up in the tradition of great Celtics sixth men. And he wins the Sixth Man of the Year award after McHale had won it 2 years in a row. McHale becomes, the starter in '85, becomes an All NBA level player in '86, and the '86 Celtics are a 67-15 team, 40-1 at home, and Larry Bird has said we
Sick.
could have won. We could have won 70 games. We just got a little bit bored at times. And they roll through the East. But what's waiting in the West for the Lakers is something they couldn't have predicted. And just like the Celtics knew they needed to add Dennis Johnson when they were battling Philly and Andrew Toney, when they got run off the floor by Milwaukee in '83, they knew they needed to add Walton to give McHale and Parrish some breathers.
Hmm.
The Lakers in '86 get blown off the floor in 5 games. Now, the games were not blowouts, but you lose in 5 games to the conference finals, you're getting wiped off the floor, and they got wiped off the floor by the Houston Rockets with Ralph Sampson, with Akeem Olajuwon,
Hmm.
with New York's finest Rodney McRae, Robert Reed, may he rest in
McCrae's
peace.
from Mount Vernon,
Mitchell,
but we'll still
yep,
claim him. And shout out
yeah.
to the Twin Towers, who were not the original Twin Towers. Marvin Webster and Bill Cartwright of the New York Knicks were the original Twin Towers.
Tell the people,
That started
tell
in
the
New York,
people.
having two
Yep,
7-footers on a squad. That started in the greatest city of the world.
there you go. There
No
you go.
apologies to
Tell
Houston,
them, Bob.
though.
Tell them, Bob.
Yeah. Anyway,
So Ralph Sampson puts in that crazy turnaround jump shot, front rim, backboard, and in at the Forum. Michael Cooper is laying on the floor. The Rockets go to the finals. The Celtics win that series in 6 games. The next season, the Lakers make a huge addition that historically people forget about, and that's the addition of Klay Thompson's father, Michael Thompson, to shore up their size and some athleticism in the front court. And in '87, the collision course does happen.
great
The Celtics
pullout,
and the
because
Lakers in the
honestly, I
final.
don't think of Michael Thompson as part of that Lakers dynasty. Had you not said that, because you think Worthy,
Yeah.
you think Johnson, you think, Byron Scott, you think Norm Nixon, in the earlier years. I think of Butch Lee, who was part of the 79-80 squad, first Puerto
Yep.
Rican in NBA history, first Puerto Rican to win a PSAL championship here in New York City and get the MVP. NCAA championship with Marquette in '77, got the MVP. Baloncesto Superior Nacional, the Pro League in Puerto Rico championship, and to win an NBA championship. He's got four rings in 4 major platforms. But yeah, Michael Thompson, I don't think of him readily as a Laker. He had those great years with the Blazers. So great call out. And as we often talk about our international players, I don't think he was born in the U.S. either.
He was not.
Bahamas or Bermuda.
I got to double check, but from
Yeah.
the Caribbean.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's one
Yes.
of the B islands.
Yes. And a terrific player with the Portland Trailblazers earlier in the decade. And as you said, Byron and Magic, Coop, Worthy, Kareem getting up there in age.
Yep.
A young AC Green. But Michael Thompson turns out to be a huge difference maker and wins back-to-back championships with the Lakers in '87 and '88. And in the '87 finals, unfortunately for the Celtics, Walton is hurt the whole year. He never plays again. Kevin McHale spends the last third of the season trying to figure out what is wrong with his foot and his ankle. And he ends up playing the entire playoffs with a fracture in his ankle. And he never walked the same again. never played the same again. But because of the uniform that he was putting on, he said, I got to go. I got
Yeah.
to play.
Yeah.
And Bird's back trouble had already started, but he wasn't telling anybody. Parrish was rolling his ankle every other night.
Mm.
Dennis Johnson was the last season where he was Dennis Johnson. The age starts to kick in. And Danny Ainge becomes an all-star a year later, but he's fighting something the back end of the season too. So the Celtics survive a 7-game series against Milwaukee, a 7-game classic against the Pistons, which of course is where the steal happens in Game 5. And they face the Lakers in the finals, and the 87 Lakers come out on top in a thrilling series in 6, highlighted by Magic's baby skyhook in Game 4 in the Boston Garden. And that's the quick history lesson through it, Bob. But the cultural impact of the teams, the greatness, the star power, the polarization, but the style of play, and that's where I want to throw it back to you. On 2 things. It's style of play and where the basketball sneaker culture game was then in terms of what was being worn on the court and how that was being translated to fans everywhere and your memory of it. So when I say Showtime, Lakers, Laker fast break, what starts to pop into your mind?
I mean, it's interesting because in our modern era of style, we see a lot of clear outs. We see Harden, Curry, Trae Young. I mean, on and on and on, taking anywhere from 14 to 16 dribbles per possession to get an open shot.
Luka. Luka Doncic.
Yeah, Kyrie,
the dribble king.
Kyrie Irving. I mean, and it's phenomenal to watch. I'm not downing it, but it's a very different style. If you look at the Celtic as well as the Laker possessions in the 80s, it was one pass and we out. Outlet was like really the pass, right? And sure, they got into the half court offenses, but I think the style of play on the playground was mirroring what we were seeing in the NBA. And in that era, it wasn't like the NBA was influencing how people were playing in the playground. It's just the two existed sort of hand in hand. And, the fast tempo dates back to the 1920s and 1930s Harlem Wrens, who even, the great UCLA coach John Wooden credits for a lot of the style that he implemented with his systems. And the Harlem Wrens, inducted into the Naismith Hall of Fame, first all African American team to not only be there in the HOF, but also they won the first World Basketball Championship in 1939, had a winning streak of 88, which still stands today beyond any NBA record for consecutive games and professional sports, period. Anyway, so, it was kind of cool because in the playground, it was a lot of like, push the rock. It wasn't like, okay, I'm going to take 4 or 5 dribbles, 6, 7, 8 dribbles to get my shot off. Although we started seeing that with Pearl Washington, who was like the progenitor for that era and forward of taking the ISO and having the ability and the blessing of the coach to take as many dribbles as he needed to get the open shot or to make the play. But going back to the Lakers and Celtics, it was, for me, a little upsetting because it was like, okay, who's going to be in the NBA Finals? Oh, the Lakers and Celtics again. Who's going to be in the finals? Like, oh, not the Celtics, but the Lakers again. And it actually detracted me as a budding fan, but becoming more of a less of a spectator and more of a participant. It pushed me to be on the asphalt. It was like, I don't really want to watch the Celtics and Lakers again. I'm not excited by that. I didn't particularly like any of the singular players' games, um, in terms of like the way they influenced me or the way they influenced the aesthetic that New York City streets were developing and what was emerging at that time. I'd rather watch Walter Berry at St. John's or Pearl at Syracuse or or go to the park and see Tip Dog and Mike Boogie and Master Rob and Speedy and Future and all these budding burgeoning legends. Um, so it was an interesting time for me. It was an interesting time for me. But I think globally, certainly the Celtics and Lakers, because they were so love and hate. Like the San Antonio Spurs were not love and hate. The Houston Rockets were not love and hate. Pacers and Knicks were love and hate. You know, but come the '90s, a lot of the teams that are winning. I mean, the Pistons, you kind of hated them, but you didn't really love them. It was just kind of like you just hated them. So the Lakers and Celtics had this harmony and this dominance in the '80s that I think helped the game globally grow and was good domestically as well here in the United States because you have two major cities that have franchises that are extremely successful. And I think ultimately it was a positive thing, even if it positioned me to watch less NBA.
Mhm.
You know, I I uh I could appreciate it nonetheless. Nonetheless.
No, and I
Are you
appreciate that
shocked by that
honesty.
by that
No,
answer?
no, I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm
Okay.
I'm not because I know how our NBA viewing histories are very, very different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we're both taking things and bringing them to the asphalt. Like I grew up going to the park and imitating Bird's bank shot and
Mm.
McHale's up and under,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, trying to spin baseline like James Worthy.
Mm.
And I was a sponge, as you can imagine, for everything that I watched on television
Yeah.
when it came to sports at a high level. So this for me was, how do I learn from this? And what and it's all joking aside, right? Like one of my favorite things about basketball is the rivalry. People always like, "How are you a Celtics fan? You're from New York, and wait, now you're living in LA, and you're a Celtics fan and from New York." And my
You're an
favorite
anomaly,
thing,
bro, for real. Yeah.
my
Yeah.
favorite thing is talking about the rivalry and talking about it with Lakers fans who
Mm.
have the same appreciation from their side. And by 1987, not only the loss to Houston creates this new hunger with the Lakers, it also makes Pat Riley realize Kareem now has to become an official complement. And it's time for Magic to take the next step forward, not
Mm.
just as our facilitator, but as our scorer.
Mm-hmm.
Larry Bird wins the MVP in 84, 85, and 86. And then in 87, he finishes second. It's Magic's time to rise. And what's truly incredible about the 87 Lakers is rebound, outlet, run. You're getting a dunk or a layup from Byron or Worthy or Rambis or AC Green or Michael Thompson. But then at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, Byron Scott, Michael Cooper shoot the three. And it was almost like it was this wave of, okay, we're going to work for the layup. All right, those guys run the lane, pull the defense in. Then we've got the two perimeter guys who can make the three. And then you know what? If that's not there, Kareem's just going to glide down the paint, step to whatever block he wants. And then
Mm-hmm.
we've got the most automatic back to the basket
Mm.
move in NBA history waiting
Mm-hmm.
in the sky hook.
Mm-hmm.
And you sit back and you think about that. And that's your offensive flow with a 6'9" magician directing the traffic.
Yeah.
It was truly remarkable to watch. And then you flip the page back to the 86 Celtics, and they like to run too, but their break looked completely different because it would be outlet, pass, ping pong. And the bigs ran the floor well before injury. Chief ran the floor pretty much better than any five in the league
No, I mean the
until
Chief
the
was
injuries.
in the legacy of Bill Russell, who ran the
Yep.
floor incredibly well as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the half court, they would just, figure out the matchup they wanted. Bird would play pick and roll with whoever they wanted,
Mhm.
and Danny Ainge and Dennis Johnson were, the steadiest of the backcourt duos. And DJ, of course, was an All NBA defender, a
And an
Hall of
NBA
Famer,
champion as well. I mean, he won
and
with the
an NBA,
Sonics in the
yeah,
70s,
Finals MVP,
Yeah.
1979,
Mhm.
and so their style of play had a huge impact on me. And as we talked about with Hoosiers, and as Gene Hackman was drilling down in practice, okay, 5 passes, ball has to change sides of the floor.
Yeah.
And that's what you felt like you were watching with the Celtics. But it started with Bird. Bird could have scored 40 every night. And he said, I'm going to be the most unselfish superstar imaginable.
Mm.
And it started with him. And the ball, if you watch 86 Celtics highlights specifically, it's some of the greatest passing and team ball you've ever seen, with him at the helm of that. So
Mhm.
you take those two systems, which are built around those talents, and you plug them right in the middle of the 1980s. And it was truly remarkable. And of course, the other thing that's the fun part about it that, we got to get your take on is, what the Converse weapons meant to basketball culture. Not just the Larry and Magic commercial where they finally become friends on set, and as the story goes, Larry Bird's mother loves Magic Johnson and Larry's shaking his head and the limo pulls up and all that. But you have that ensemble commercial of Magic, Larry, McHale, Isaiah, Mark Aguirre,
And Bernard King.
Bernard King,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
we'll show a clip of that on here. But like, what did the Converse weapon say to you back then, with all of those talents and stars rocking that shoe?
Yeah, I mean, I think the weapon is possibly the last hurrah for the brand, because after that they have other models, but none resonate as hard as the weapon did. And so we see a decline after the weapon in the popularity of Converse, which was completely dominant, for decades. They didn't have like a short run in dominance. They had like a 40-50 year run of complete dominance in terms of sales and representation in high school, college, pro, as well as playground. Um, and so the Converse weapon is kind of like the end of that era, but a beautiful send off, because of who they had wearing it and because of who was wearing it in the hood as well. Playground tournaments, summer leagues, whatever. You saw the weapon right up there with the Air Force One in terms of performance and function. I don't think it functioned as well as the Air Force One. That was kind of like a new mark in technology by Nike at that point. But the weapon for sure, it definitely made some waves, and the color blocking was excellent, with the Y on the ankle, for Aguirre with his green white ones, and Isaiah with his royal white ones. It was just a fly shoe. It was just a real fly shoe. I wore them in college, proudly and happily, and even though my college experience wasn't happy or joyful, but yeah, man, Weapon goes up there as one of the remarkable shoes of that decade. You know, top 10 definitely, top 5 maybe not, but some may argue, you know. And for that, they're very memorable. Eric, we are running out of time, and I want to get to the recaps as well as, well, even more so than the recaps, the predictions for this
Yeah.
upcoming end season tournament, the last one before they name a new champion of 2024. Where are we headed with your analysis, Coach E?
Yeah, so Bob, we've got the quarterfinals coming up this week, which means we've got 8 teams in the knockout round. These games will be played at, NBA arenas, and then when it gets down to the Final Four, that's when it goes to Vegas for Saturday, December
I
14th
have
for
a
the
question.
semifinals.
These games are
Yes.
in addition to the 82 game season, or
So the quarterfinals coming up are part of the 82 game schedule. The semifinals and the finals are not. Those are added games.
Hmm.
That won't count against your record. And of course, the league will be down as those games are being played for
wow.
a couple of days. Yeah.
Hmm.
So we got the quarterfinals coming up. There's no need for game recaps as we took the week off last week for the holiday
Mm-hmm.
and for my move. But it's so interesting how these matchups um, materialized in terms of storylines and some drama and some playoff rematches. So uh, on Tuesday, you've got the top two teams in the Western Conference in a uh, playoff. Wait, sorry, hold on. I need to do a pickup. I just totally blanked. Dallas. Bob, on Tuesday, we've got the top two teams in the Western Conference, which is also a playoff rematch from last year. So we've got the Dallas Mavericks against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Unfortunately, there's no Chet Holmgren for Oklahoma City. They've been playing a ton of small ball with him out of the lineup, still holding it down. Isaiah Hartenstein, formerly of the Knicks, has returned to the lineup for the
I like
Thunder.
him
He's put up,
a
I
lot.
like him a lot. He's put
Yeah.
up some ridiculous numbers
Yo, I saw him play
since he's been
pickup.
back.
I saw him play pickup. Not in person. So footage of it. And I was
Yeah.
like, yo, he doesn't play like that in the NBA. Like he was pulling up for threes off the dribble. He had like a little handle. I was like, where is that? Like, why doesn't he pull that out
Yeah.
when he's
He's got
subbing in?
he's got some ingredients. He's also a terrific passer
Mm.
from that high post spot, which really helps the Thunder and their guards and their wings. So he had a 19 rebound game the other night.
Mm.
And again, they're 1-2 in the West right now. For Dallas, PJ Washington has really come on. Who's their starting four-man, who last year was key to their success, especially as a three-point shooter.
Mm-hmm.
He's been very good as late.
Got amazing form as well.
He's got a beautiful shot pocket,
Mm-hmm.
Bob.
Yeah,
Beautiful shot pocket.
Yeah, very poetic.
Very versatile defender.
Mm-hmm.
And as we record this on Sunday, December 8th, the Mavs have won 9 of 10. And they've got Gafford, they've got Lively, they've got Washington, Luka, Kyrie, Klay Thompson, obviously. As good as OKC is, as good as Hartenstein has been since he's been back, I see Dallas winning this game. I see Dallas, both teams approaching this like the big game that it is because of the NBA Cup. But I think Dallas just has too much size, and I think they're going to win this game on Tuesday. What's unfortunate about the other game on Tuesday, which is Orlando at Milwaukee, Orlando playing very good basketball, third in the East, 16-9 overall. Paolo Banchero's been out. He won't be back until probably right after Christmas. They just lost Franz Wagner, who Paul Pierce proudly calls Frank Wagner, who's been playing at an all-star level, to the same abdominal injury as Paolo. So neither of them will be available for this game against Milwaukee, who started the year terribly and are now 11-11. They are red hot. They've won 7 out of 10, but at one point I believe it was 8 in a row until 2 recent losses this week. So Giannis has been putting up video game numbers. They found a rhythm with him and Dame. Chris Middleton is back in the lineup.
Nice.
And Milwaukee has found their stride now, and they will continue to climb in the East. So I like the Bucks in this game on Tuesday to advance. Wednesday, an incredible pair of matchups. Golden State at Houston. The Houston Rockets, who I said, not just a play-in team, they are a playoff team. They are 15-8, going in the proper direction. The Golden State Warriors are 13-9, but they have struggled recently, losing 7 of 10 games. But here's and they would actually be playing in the NBA playoffs if they started today. They're the 4-5 in the West.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing: it's Steph Curry on a big stage. So, as good as the Rockets have been, I can't pick against the guy. And one guy for you, Bob, to put on your watch list on the Rockets is their big man, Şengün. He's a mini Joker.
Hmm.
Point center, great rebounder, passer from the high post, can face up, can back you down. Great IQ feel for the game. Ime Udoka, who of course was the coach of the Celtics, has done an incredible job with this Rockets team. I can't pick against Steph though. With the chance to go to Vegas, I'm going to take the Warriors in a thrilling game on Wednesday night to.
And
to
there's
win.
one game
And
elimination
then
at this point.
It's March Madness style. It's win and move on, and lose and go back to your regular NBA schedule. And then we've got a playoff rematch from 3 years ago, which was intense. You got the Hawks and the Knicks, and both teams are starting to figure themselves out. Trae Young has a brand new supporting cast around him in terms of guys, some new guys brought in, some guys elevating their game.
He was fun to watch with Collins, I have to say.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Collins, who's now in Utah. They have a power forward named Jalen Johnson, who is a walking 19 and 10 machine. And Trae's scoring numbers are down. That's because he is facilitating and he's trusting some of these guys, and he's leading the league in assists with 12 assists per game. So you've got the Hawks, who, again, if the playoffs started today, just like the West matchup with the Rockets and the Warriors, the Hawks and Knicks would play each other in the 4-5. The Knicks are really figuring it out. They were 4-0 in this pool play. The Hawks were 3-1, but the Knicks have won 7-10 overall. They're fourth in the Eastern Conference, and they're even in the loss column now, Bob, with Orlando. And with these injuries with Orlando, as well as they were doing sustaining without Paolo in the lineup, being able to do the same thing without Wagner in the lineup is going to be very difficult. So I like this to be a very good game. The Garden is going to be rocking, and the New York Knicks are going to move on to Vegas to play in the semifinals against the Milwaukee Bucks for the NBA Cup. And the Knicks are also going to leapfrog the Orlando Magic in the standings in the next week or so. And then the Eastern Conference standings are going to read Cleveland, Boston, New York, with Milwaukee surging behind them. So Karl Anthony Towns looks really, really good. And as good as Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo were for the Knicks, you judge a trade after some time, and you judge a trade, of course, by who got the best player in the trade. Cat has been outstanding. And yes, the Knicks have struggled against teams with an inside presence because Mitchell Robinson is not back and they lost Hartenstein. So people are floating these stats out there about how bad Cat's interior defense is. And, you know, he had Gobert last year. When the Knicks get Mitchell Robinson back, they get Precious Achiuwa back, potentially make another move to bring in some more front court depth. Brunson, Bridges, Hart, Anunoby, Cat. The Knicks are surging in the right direction. It's going to be an exciting week for the Knicks.
Let me ask you a question, Eric. During the preseason, there was the kid from Marquette. I think he's from Marquette or for Notre Dame. Left-handed dude, super fast, rookie. You know what I'm talking about?
You talking about on the Knicks?
Yeah, on the Knicks.
I
think he played for Marquette or Notre Dame.
Let me look that up real quick.
Left-handed.
We will edit this.
This white dude. He got drafted in the second round. Everybody was saying he was like a steal. He played exceptionally well in the preseason.
Who? Kolek? Tyler Kolek? Hold
on. If you said his name, I probably wouldn't know. He's a white-handed left hand. He's a white dude who's lefty, who played like he's rookie. Just came out.
Yeah. Okay, so set up the question again.
All right. So Eric, There's a dude who was crushing in the preseason. I really like his game. I think he's left-handed. He just goes to the Baja, knows how to kick, knows how to dish, knows how to give the dollar bill. He's just a setup. He's like a table setup. Is he getting any burn? Is he having an impact? I mean, I know it's tough with Jalen Brunson being an all-star to get get off the bench, but is he in the rotation?
Yeah, Tyler Kolek, he's not playing much, and the thing that's also working against him, of course, is Miles McBride finding his role as a Knicks scoring guard off the bench, and Tibbs doesn't play rookies too often, so he's playing 6-7 minutes a game, but yeah, he's got some game, and hopefully he's somebody they choose to hold on to and develop because he's definitely got some potential for sure.
That's got to be frustrating for him.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of the kid, Pozinski in Golden State, who's done well to crack that rotation, and when Steph's out of the lineup, plays a lot of minutes. So frustrating, I'm sure, but to be part of this team and the success that they're having, I'm sure is a lot of fun. And stay ready. You never know.
Yeah, he must be good. He must be getting busy in the practice. I know, like when I wasn't getting burned, I would go at the starting squad like so hard in practice. Like y'all gotta get it.
Oh yeah.
So
I'm sure they're demanding that of him too.
I mean, that makes the team better. You know, if you go hard in practice against the starting five, like then they're getting competitive all the time, whether it's under the buzzer or not. So so shout out to Tyler. I like his game. Wherever you at, you get a thumbs up from the hood.
For sure. So excited for these matchups this week, and I'll likely be in Vegas for the final, doing one of those live streams with KG and Pierce, part of the BetMGM sponsorship, for the show. So
nice.
Yeah, that'll be the following week. But these are going to be some good games this week. Not to mention, the regular NBA schedule as well through the week. And real quick, yesterday, watching the Grizzlies and the Celtics and watching Ja Morant, and I know you saw that replay. Like, this guy is unbelievable. I mean,
well, I love that he mentioned that he's not dunking anymore. Then all of a sudden he comes out with the reverse. But
somebody did a side by side. I saw it this morning when I was getting myself together, of the Vince baseline against the Pacers. And the body positioning is almost identical, except Ja is 6'1".
Nah, he's only 6'1".
You can fact check.
I thought he was like 6'5", 6'6".
No,
really? He's got wingspan for sure.
He's got crazy wingspan. I mean, I'll fact check myself right now, but
wow. All right, cool. Well, listen, I love the creativity.
He's listed at 6'2". He has a 6'7" wingspan. But the Memphis Grizzlies, this is not some crazy prediction. They're third in the West. The 2 seasons before last season, when they had any health and Ja in the lineup, they finished second in the West. This is a serious contender in the Western Conference. And Jaren Jackson Jr. has taken his game to the next level. And they are going to be a problem the whole year, the Memphis Grizzlies. So,
well, if whether they advance or not, they're going to be fun to watch. And for me, that's, I love the little highlights. I love the moments when, you can't teach that stuff, right? No. There's no coach that's going to be like, okay, let's have 2 players jump at you and then you reverse dunk. No, like, nah, that's not a play. That's not a setup play. So those
he paused in the air, brought the ball down, waited for Porzingis, and then dunked it back over his head.
Yeah. What if Porzingis never left the Knicks?
That's for Knicks fans to figure out. He has been unbelievable in his time back with the Celtics since coming back into the lineup last week. He's been great. So
he's got a ring.
He's got a ring. he said it best last year. And we should end the show with this, and it speaks to right place, right time, right environment. He talked about simplifying his game. He said, I was young and dumb. I thought I wanted to and needed to do everything. And when I simplified my game and I matured, and obviously health has a lot to do with it, it helped me realize who I could be in this league. And, you know, he didn't have the impact and the numbers when he was in Dallas that they had hoped with Luka. I mean, he would have some solid numbers, but you thought him in Dallas would have been great. And then he goes to Washington, and yes, he's not on a good team, but that's where he figured himself out. And the Celtics saw that on film as a very, very efficient post player. And then, of course, the shooting range is ridiculous. I mean, last year, you know, his average, I think it was his average threes attempted distance was 27 feet, shooting at a really good percentage. And then the highest points per post up possession in the league. Like, who does that at the same time at 7'3"? And then as a rim protector, I mean, he blocked Morant's shot a couple of times last night. Memphis won a terrific game, but yeah, Porzingis, the evolution of his game, of his mindset, and then the perfect fit on that Celtics team. It's beautiful to watch for Celtics fans, at least. Yeah. So good stuff, my man. Close us out.
All right, yo, this has been B-Ball Radio, the podcast dedicated to playground, pros, history, culture, and beyond. My name is Bobbito Garcia, aka Cool Bob Love, the co-host, co-producer, and NBA analyst Eric Newman, aka Coach E-New, as well as our staff, is proud to present our views as well as share with you our history. Thank you for being tuned in. Please share, follow, all that, and have a fantastic basketball day. Peace.
Peace.
B-Ball Radio.